Joe Biden's doing poorly. But if you look what's going on, and Fetterman is up, I don't know if it's not quite double digits, but he is up significantly over Dr. Oz.
Part of that, too, is also just like, even though Fetterman's been going through some health issues, but he hasn't shrunk away. He's been, as soon as Oz cleared that longer and more complicated, very close primary process, he went on the offensive and was like, you're from New Jersey. You're from, everybody voting in that election is going to know that Dr. Oz lives in New Jersey.
Yes.
Because of John Fetterman.
Yes. The House races in that Times Siena poll, 41% say they preferred to see Democrats in charge after the November elections, compared with 40% they said preferred a House under Republican management. Among likely voters, and this is key, Republicans led 44 to 43%. And usually these generic polls also tend to favor Democrats by 2 or 3 points. But again, likely voters in August, or in July, I should say, are not necessarily likely voters in September, October. Well, let me put it this way. The assessment who's going to be a likely voter, the models don't change, but facts on the ground change. And by September, hopefully, Democratic candidates will have found that it is in their best interest to talk as much about what's going on with the Supreme Court as anything else. And some of these votes that are going to be taken in the House, whether it's to protect marriage equality, whether it's sort of like votes around abortion rights, these are going to be deployed in the fall. And the other thing that people need to keep in mind is when Biden ran against Trump, there were 50 or so House races where you were within like a certain partisan margin of error. There are now closer to like 30 House races. In other words, the polarization that we've seen in the gerrymandering, we're at as close to an equilibrium as we've been in terms of swingable House districts. So the number of those districts that are in play have shrunk, at least generically speaking, from 2020. But looking at these polls, guy at Emory University, Alan Abramowitz, analyzed 27 generic polls conducted since June 1. Now remember, this is prior to Roe v. Wade being overturned. Showed Republicans with a 2.5 percentage point edge. And then he separated them into those that have a record of being friendly toward Republicans and those that are generally more neutral. Republican-friendly polls showed the GOP advantage at 7.5 points. The others put the Republican edge at 0.4 points. Democrats do even better in the average of polls taken since July 1st or after the Supreme Court ruled on abortion. So now, who knows? I still think that it's unlikely, because there's such a slim margin, that the Democrats are going to hold the House. But when you start to look at Senate races, where are the ones that were vulnerabilities for Democrats? New Hampshire. Apparently, there's no like Republican frontrunner in that primary.
Yeah, it really blunted New Hampshire Republicans' chances when Chris Sununu, the current governor, decided not to run. So there's not really like a path clearer necessarily against Maggie Hassan right
and
now.
That's going to be hard because that means that they can't campaign against her until like, what is it, September or October even?
Later primary.
And in Nevada, in Arizona, Blake Masters seems to be leading the pack. And that's not the candidate you want if people are upset about a post-Roe v. Wade world. New Hampshire, September 13th. That gives you less than 2 months.
That's unreal.
To campaign in a general election. And the thing is, she knew she was in trouble. And so she was getting ready to campaign. We'll see.
Herschel Walker versus Raphael Warnock.
Well, you got Arizona, so Mark Kelly's looking good. That was a vulnerability. Warnock was another that was looking vulnerable. He's got a 7-point lead, I think it is, on Herschel Walker at this point. Kemp and Stacey Abrams are tied, which is where you would expect them to be, more or less. Although you might expect on an off-year election for her to be even a little bit lower, although they were virtually in a dead heat last time, and that was off year. So it makes the Warnock lead look more real. Herschel Walker, really bad candidate. That would be a pickup. Fetterman, that would be another hold. So these are the three big ones that Democrats were afraid of losing.
And probably the most vulnerable
Nevada
is probably Cortez Masto, if any, because honestly, that's probably the one we're the most lined up in terms of a battle-tested Republican candidate, and Adam Laxalt, who ran for governor last time and lost. But like you said, every other one is kind of a liability sort of to the Republicans.
And Nevada, Nevada, like Arizona, it seems to be trending in a bluer direction. So if all else, all things are equal, then Cortez Masto should hold on, or at least I hope that she does, obviously.
And so you're looking at pickup potential in Wisconsin. Ron Johnson not polling very well. At least I saw a focus group out of Wisconsin where people didn't really even still know who Ron Johnson was that much. But those that did not have a very high opinion of him. You got Wisconsin as a possible pickup, and you got Pennsylvania as a possible pickup. So it's going to be interesting to see. If they hold the Senate, that is going to be very key. If they pick up even one vote in the Senate, then all of a sudden the strategy by the White House changes. And particularly if Mark Kelly wins, the strategy is all about Kristen Sinema.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Joe Manchin is just like, go and enjoy yourself. Have a vacation. You're done. But we'll see. But the point is that this is the fun half. Want to give you some news that might be positive. But it does mean, too, that your efforts in going out, always good to organize. But it's also nice to feel like you're organizing may have some short-term payoffs, too. So, and the other thing, too, is that I think that, I don't know if it's too late in most places, but local elections, your county Democratic Party, these elections, you can make a difference. Not necessarily short term, but heading out into the future.